This is Celebrity Thursdays. Every Thursday, we present you with another celebrity. Today, we're looking at 15 things you didn't know about Nick Vujicic. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello, Aluxers. Are you feeling down today? Do you need a little push to go on and be the best version of yourself? Well, we have exactly what you need: the life, the secrets, and the story of one of the most amazing people on this planet. Maybe you don't know his name, but we bet you've heard about the guy without limbs. Nick was born with no arms or legs and no medical explanation for it. His life was a continuous struggle to be normal and function. Even his parents rejected him for a while when he was born. Today, at 35 years old, the amazing Nick has grown up. He has a wife, a family, and a career in motivational speaking. He uses his life story and success as a way to preach. If he made it in spite of all of his difficulties, then you can make it too. There are more and more motivational speakers nowadays, but only a few can really help and give useful tips. Nick calls himself an evangelist. He travels the world. He preaches, he teaches, and he inspires. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. His journey and his life are quite interesting, so we're going to have a deeper look and see what else is underneath. Stay tuned. It's gonna be a good one. Number 1. His Vietnam event cost $1.5 million. Nick Vujicic is not the richest guru in the world, but he is one of the most famous for sure. In almost 20 years of preaching and traveling, he's addressed over 600 million people and plans to touch 6.4 billion more, the entire world basically. His fans travel great deals to see him and hear him talk, and his tours are very meticulous and professionally organized. His Vietnam trip cost almost $1.5 million to organize and advertise, with tickets starting from $10. If the math is not wrong, he could be a millionaire, right? But more on his net worth later on. Number 2. He can hold his breath for longer than most people. Nick is living proof that a positive attitude can help you win over your fears. His entire life, he improvised and tried to live a normal life. Since he's so different, almost everything about him works and applies differently. His body resembles more of one of a dwarf's, and because he has half the blood in his body, everything hits him harder. For instance, medicine, coffee, sugar, or alcohol travels faster and is absorbed differently. He can even hold his breath for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Number 3. He has no hands, yet he wrote 5 books. His career as a motivational speaker and evangelist, and his fame as the man with no limbs, has given him a platform large enough to make a change. He started his journey at 17 years old, and by 19, he was already speaking to large audiences. In spite of having no arms, he managed to write 5 books and become an international New York Times best-selling author. He sold over 1 million copies, and they've been translated into 28 languages. Probably the most popular book by him is called Life Without Limits: Inspiration for a Ridiculously Good Life. The book is fairly expensive at $28, but if you go to Alux.com/freebook and sign up, you can get the audio version for free, courtesy of our friends at Audible. Number 4. He is one of the 7 people in the world with his condition. Nick was born in Melbourne, Australia, from 2 Serbian parents. They were perfectly healthy, but for some reason, no doctor could tell why he was born with no limbs. This seems to be the case of Tetra-amelia syndrome, an extremely rare congenital disorder characterized by the absence of all 4 limbs. There are 6 more cases in the world of people with this rare syndrome. Back in the 1920s, there was a girl from Germany named Violetta, born with this condition, and she used to be a famous stage performer. However, because there aren't too many cases, doctors have not been able to find any pattern or reason for this mutation. Number 5. His net worth is $500,000. Since starting his career as a motivational speaker, Nick has traveled to more than 70 countries and spoke to more than 600 million people from all over the world. He's done TED Talks, conferences, workshops, events, and all sorts of things to get his message through. While doing all of that, he's only worth $500,000, which sounds a little fishy. It's probably the lowest we've ever had here on our channel, but there's also tax to consider, staff, travel expenses, and charity work. Still, with such a long career, how is he not a millionaire like Tony Robbins? Number 6. He tried to commit suicide at the age of 10, but failed. When you're born with no limbs and are forced to live a life of torture and struggle every day, you begin to ask yourself, why in the world would this happen to you? What did you do wrong to deserve this? Why is God so evil? Nick went through this phase in his life as a teenager. He was suicidal from 8 to 12 years old. Fortunately, he failed every time, and in the end, at the age of 15, found God and began to understand what his mission in life really is. The rest is history, and he tells it quite a lot. Number 7. A dinner with him costs $1,275. A few years ago, during a trip to Hong Kong, the church that helped Nick organize the trip and the fundraising for the expansion of their church organized an ultra-expensive dinner that was supposed to be with Nick and some of his fans. Because the price of the dinner was $1,275 per person, fans were outraged and started an online petition to boycott it. Even Nick declined the invitation when he found out how much they priced the tickets at. After all the criticism, the church apologized for the damage they had done with the event in the name of Christ. Number 8. He claims to have seen demons. After he found God and became a Christian, Nick changed his mindset and then his life. He was also inspired by other people that he met, but religion was the one that truly changed him. Although he's a motivational speaker, some might add that he's more of a preacher or a pastor. Recently, he stated while he was in a hotel room in San Francisco, he saw and felt the presence of demons around him. Of course, his experience was a spiritual one that no scientist can explain yet, so that's why he attributes everything to God. Religion is the best band-aid for the lack of science because it feeds the urge to know what's happening. Number 9. His parents had to improvise a lot when he was growing up. Nick's story has moved and changed the life of so many people because it's so unique and because he's constantly showing us that everything is possible if you believe in yourself. Before he had all this confidence, he and his family had a lot of improvising to do. As a kid, Nick's parents taught him how to type using his toes, how to hold a pen or a pencil, and how to move around with the electric wheelchair. They also arranged a wall-mounted brush for him and a pump-action soap so he could wash his hair by himself. His life was and still is a continuous learning experience. Number 10. He now lives in Southern California with his family. Born in Australia of a Serbian family and married with a half-Japanese woman, you wouldn't know where to settle, would you? But just like any other person that wants to make it big and make a change, you move to America. Nick is now living with his family in Southern California. He tries to keep his personal life quite private, but since he's only worth $500,000, he's most probably living a small, normal life in a normal house. Nothing too over the top. And Aluxers, if you'd like some more life gurus, head over to our video about the one and only Tony Robbins, the richest and most famous life coach. Just click in the top right corner to check it out. Number 11. The Gospel of John changed his life and mentality. Not even Nick Vujicic could understand what was happening to him and how to get out of the state of depression and suicidal thoughts he was so deeply rooted in. As a teenager, his parents introduced him to the Bible, and that is how it all began. He read the Gospel of John and saw how God worked his magic through people like him. He was also inspired by other people that were suffering from all sorts of conditions and managed to squeeze in a smile in spite of all the hurting. 20 years years later, he's still preaching, and thanks to that, he met his wife. Number 12. He gave a poor man in Africa $20,000 of his life savings. Nick's travels have taken him almost all over the world. In his trips around Africa, where he talked to numerous people, he also faced a lot of extreme cases and very sad stories. Some African countries are still struggling with health, famine, and poverty. It seems that one man moved Nick so much, he decided to give him $20,000 to help him change his life around. This shows that no matter how little you have, Nick is not a millionaire. You can help others. Or as he says, if you can't get a miracle, become one. Number 13. He was bullied as a child. It's sad to see that kids are so cruel and take so much pleasure in bullying others. This behavior is happening all over the world, and it seems to be getting worse with new technology and the internet. Nick speaks a lot about bullying, especially because he was also bullied as a child. He was often called ugly, weird, and dysfunctional. He was hurting from a young age and had suicidal tendencies because of it. Now that he's past all that, he tries to help others and raise more awareness about this major problem. Number 14. He paints, he swims, he plays football, and he drives, kind of. Some of us are too afraid to swim, too afraid to surf, too afraid to try a new hobby, or too afraid to get physically hurt. Nick is not one of those people. In spite of his extreme condition, he lives quite a normal life. He has 4 children, a job, and he travels the world. He can swim, he can paint, he can play football, hold a presentation, or write books. He even drove a car, specially customized just for him, showing everyone that people like him are capable of doing anything, and that a physical handicap is not the end of the world. Number 15. He can type 43 words a minute on a computer with his foot. Although his condition makes him limbless, he somehow has 2 tiny, undeveloped feet that were submitted to surgery when he was a child, so he could use the toes. He calls one of his foot the chicken drumstick because of its shape. Nick wrote over 5 books with his foot, and he can type 43 words per minute on a computer, which is pretty fast. Since he was a child, his parents taught him to be independent, and as an adult without limbs, he takes care of himself and provides for his family. Motivational speakers always have the perfect background story that seems to be the perfect trigger. They are the few people that overcome life's difficulties and turn their lives around while making a career out of it. Do you guys think that Nick has some hidden investments or offshore accounts? How come he's not a millionaire yet? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And since you stayed with us all the way to the end, here's your reward, our bonus fact for the most loyal viewers. And warning, you might want a tissue for this one. Number 16. He keeps a pair of shoes in his closet because he believes in miracles. As emotional as his story can be, Nick's life should be more of a lesson. Not because he uses religion to justify nature's flaws and find motivation to get through the day, but because he believes life can actually change. Nick keeps a pair of shoes in his closet because he hopes that one day a miracle will happen and he'll have limbs and be able to wear them. In reality, he'll probably care more about rushing to hug his loved ones than these shoes. But this symbolizes a different kind of faith. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxers. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. Thank you for being an Aluxer, and we'll see you back tomorrow.